Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the TikTok shark. In May of last year, someone on TikTok called Alex Albrecht, who is a marine biodiversity student as well as a musician, shared a video on the app that had people seriously shocked. The TikTok shows a massive shark lurking around the ship that Alex was on, which is said to have just been off of the coast of Massachusetts at the time. The ship was full of research students when this massive shark made its appearance, many of which either screamed or had some sort of expletive to say in response. Another TikTok user asked in the comments if the shark in the video is a megalodon, considering how absolutely huge this thing was. Was this an actual megalodon? Likely not, but hey, I'm not the marine life student here, so who am I to say?
Coming in at number 9, we have Julie Wolfe. When you think of a canoe trip, you think about peace and calm waters. Every time I get into a canoe, I think I'm in a rom-com and I'm randomly gonna run into Jennifer Aniston and then we're gonna fall in love next to a campfire. Well, Julie Wolfe didn't have that experience at all. Julie was riding her canoe off the coast of California when she got rocked by something strange. It felt as if she had bumped into a rock, but she was way out in the ocean, so there was no way she could have run into land. Turns out it was a great white shark. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a great time to me. Well, it got even worse when the shark bit into her canoe. This tore a hole into it, but Julie still had some time. She started to paddle back to shore and was able to get back to land before the whole thing sunk into the ocean. On the shark's side, he probably thought he was getting a nice snack and then he just got a mouthful of carbon fiber. That's like when you put some Kraft cheese on your burger but you forget to take the plastic off.
In our number 8 spot today, we have two specimens. This story comes from all the way back in 1869 when an Irish scientist headed out on an expedition to Seychelles. It is said that he went there to study fish, but man, he was not prepared for the specimens he would go on to study. It is said that he found one that was over 15 meters, which is already a whopping almost 50 feet, but the other one really took the cake. The second specimen it is said that he found was alleged to have been 23 meters long, which is a massive 75 feet. Since this was so long ago, there wasn't any official documentation of it, but if there had been, the second one would hold the record for being the largest ever recorded. That is absolutely wild. Seeing it is one thing, but imagine being able to actually study it. In our number 7 spot today, we have the sailors. This gigantic shark sighting is said to have taken place in the 1960s just off of the edge of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. According to author B.C. Cartmel in his book Let's Go Fossil Shark Tooth Hunting, the sailors involved in this sighting initially refused to talk about it because of the fear of being teased for being afraid of what they had seen. After some time, however, they began to speak about the incident. They explained that while on board their 85-foot ship, they needed to weigh anchor in order to conduct some engine repairs. While this was ongoing, the crew became absolutely shocked when they saw the biggest shark they had ever seen slowly swimming past their completely stuck ship. Just like the last one, all the men agreed that they were not mistaking a whale and that it was indeed a shark. They also said that this shark was so large it was rivaling the boat in size. That is absolutely massive. Whether it really was a megalodon or not, whatever shark they saw that day certainly wasn't the average size. In our number 6 spot today, we have the battle scar. This story is a little different than the others on today's list, and it started with the sighting of a great white shark. This 15-foot long shark was spotted swimming just off of Isla Guadalupe in Mexico, but what was so striking about this great white in particular was the absolutely savage wound it had on its side. This huge bite mark had people speculating as to what in the world could have caused it. I mean, there aren't very many predators to great whites, so it's a pretty rare occasion to see such a huge bite mark right on the side of one, and people were doubting whether or not another shark would have done this to one of its own species. There definitely are reasons for why this could have been an attack from another shark, but of course people took this as a possible sign that maybe there's something bigger lurking in the waters. If the megalodon somehow isn't actually extinct and just manages to evade any sort of confirmation of its existence, it certainly would need a ton of food to survive, which makes big fish like great whites a perfect snack. The megalodon is, however, one of the most powerful predators to have ever lived on our planet, so if this bite really was from a megalodon, it's surprising that this great white made it out alive. In our number 5 spot today, we have a world record. Basking sharks are known for being one of the largest fish in the ocean, and that is exactly why the largest one ever recorded was definitely something to write home about. In 1851, in the Bay of Fundy, which sits between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia here in Canada, a basking shark was caught in a herring net. This shark was measured to be at least 40 feet long, which is astoundingly large, and it certainly confused those who had caught it at first. I can imagine that they likely also thought that they had some kind of living fossil caught up in their net, but nope, instead they just set a new world record. In our number 4 spot today we have the demon. There are many stories and alleged sightings of what is now referred to as the quote Black Demon of Cortez, which is said to be a massive black shark seen off of Mexico's Baja coast. One story in particular regarding this elusive shark comes from a fisherman named Eric Mack. He had reported that one day while sailing he felt his boat begin to rock, which immediately gave him the feeling that something was awry. Eric was even further startled when he explained that he saw a massive towering tail sticking at least 5 feet out of the water. The stories of this shark are so infamous that it was even the focus of an episode of a History Channel show called Monster Quest. Maybe if there's a part 2 of this video we'll talk about some more of the sightings surrounding the demon. In our number 3 spot today we have Deep Blue. This shark is in fact not a megalodon, but it definitely is a more modern contender. Deep Blue is the name of a great white shark who is most definitely one of the greatest ever recorded, at least in our lifetime. This colossal monster is the largest great white shark ever caught on camera by scientists. She is measured to be 20 feet long, 8 feet high, and about 2.5 tons, and while this isn't all that huge compared to her massive prehistoric cousin, it certainly is no small feat. Rumors of her existence have been spread since as far back as the 1990s, but it wasn't until 2014 that she was officially caught on camera and documented. Researchers at the time were in the midst of studying tiger sharks, but she made her grand appearance after scavenging some food from a sperm whale carcass nearby. In our number 2 spot today we have Bigger Than the Boat. Zane Grey is a man who is a novelist, and he is definitely best known for his adventure novels, but it is also said that he was a deep sea angler, and it was during one of his fishing adventures that his megalodon sighting came. In the novel, which is titled Megalodon, Fact or Fiction, writer Rick Emmer speaks of this incident, saying that Zane claimed to have seen, quote, one of the man-eating monsters of the South Pacific. It is said that whatever kind of shark he saw, it was a shark that was much longer than his boat, which was somewhere from 30 to 40 feet. He also said that this shark was yellow and green and that it had a few white spots. Most notably, however, he said that the shark had a massive square head and that it had, quote, immense pectoral fins. This is all to say that whether he saw a megalodon or not, whatever he saw was not just a harmless great white shark. What do you guys think? Perhaps a megalodon sighting, or just one of the tall, exciting tales told by Mr. Grey? In our number 1 spot today we have the Mariana Trench sighting. A few years ago a video began circulating the internet and it shows a gigantic shark scouring the seafloor. People online quickly put a story to the video saying that allegedly this is a megalodon that was caught on camera at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. The creature is seen swimming over top of what is apparently an abandoned shark cage, and the video seems to be enough to have convinced many people. The video certainly is compelling, and whatever we see is most definitely terrifying to look at, but with my very limited knowledge of anything that lives in the sea, it's tough to say anything further. While some people swear that this is solid proof, others have brought up sharks that may have a similar appearance to the one seen in the video.
Right into our number 10 with a reminder that not everything in the ocean is out to get you, and it's a story about dolphins saving humans from a shark attack. In 2004, a group of lifeguards were swimming off the coast of New Zealand when a great white shark moved in to attack them. They were totally unaware of the danger they were in when suddenly a pod of dolphins appeared out of nowhere and started frantically circling them. They kept circling for 40 minutes and the group had no idea what was going on until one of the guys spotted a shark just 2 meters below them. It had been following them the whole time, ready to attack, and the dolphins had been circling, ready to defend them. They got to a rescue boat and the shark swam off, but the dolphins continued to circle them until all the swimmers were safely aboard. When you're in trouble in the water, you call on a lifeguard, but when you're a lifeguard, you call on a dolphin. There was no such lucky escape though for the people in at number 9 with the tragic tale of the USS Indianapolis. The fate of this ship is known as the worst naval disaster in US history. After being torpedoed by a Japanese submarine during World War II, the USS Indianapolis sunk in just 12 minutes. There were 1,200 men on board, and approximately 300 went down with the ship. But the fate that awaited the survivors was perhaps even worse. The remaining 900 men were stranded in shark-infested waters with no lifeboats and almost no food and water. The shark attacks were brutal and constant, day in and day out. The men were picked off one by sharks that could smell their blood in the water from so far away. By the time they were rescued, there were only 317 survivors, and some estimates put the shark fatalities as high as 150. Alright, so we know shark attacks can be brutal, but how big can they be? Well, at number 8, it's the shark that was said to be the size of a dinosaur. Witnesses at a South African holiday resort watched in horror as a gigantic shark attacked a man called Lloyd Skinner. The attack took place off Fish Hope Beach in Cape Town as Lloyd was pulled under by a great white and pulled out into sea. Greg Copeland was a witness who posted to Twitter that day, and he said that shark was huge, like dinosaur huge. The whole thing happened in just a moment as Lloyd stood chest deep in the water adjusting his goggles, the same goggles that were the only thing investigators could find of him after the attack. Shark attacks are already terrifying enough without the thought of them being dinosaur sized as well. Alright guys, so since the rise of the GoPro camera, it's no surprise that a couple of shark attacks have been caught on film with them. But not many of them are as good as this GoPro film of an actual shark attack underwater. In at number 4. In the video, we see the diver is minding his own business in a coral reef, just picking out random fish specimens to presumably take home and study, when a shark comes out of nowhere and goes for a bite on him. As fast as the diver can turn, the shark moves faster. It circles him repeatedly as he tries to stab it with the same thing he was just using to collect fish, but the shark is rapid and seems to dodge everything the guy throws at it. This whole thing is crazy to see. I mean, shark attacks are rare, catching them on film is pretty rare, and to have one this close up, well, that's just like unheard of. In this case, it was kind of expected though. I mean, as one guy pointed out in the comments, he was kind of holding a massive jar of fish. Yeah, it seems like the fastest way to attract a shark if you ask me. If our unbelievable shark attacks have been just too unbelievable for you so far, then how about this one at number 6, where a shark attack was seen on live TV by thousands of people. Professional surfer Mike Fanning was taking part in the 2015 World Surf League Championship when the camera captured what might be the most shocking moment of his career. A huge tiger shark approached him from behind as he sat in the water, waiting for his turn to compete. Before he even had time to realise what was going on, the shark attacked him, much to the horror of all the spectators. Mike said that the shark punched him in the back, and so he just instinctively started kicking and managed to get to safety on the beach. I've never heard of a shark punching people, but I have heard of people punching sharks, which is exactly what happened in our number 5. We're in Hawaii in 2012 where Joshua Holly was enjoying some surfing when he saw a shark's dorsal fin appear on his left. Next thing he knows, he had a popping sensation in his foot as a shark bit him. As it came up on his other side, he did the most badass thing ever. He punched the shark in the face not once, but twice. Apparently that worked because the shark just swam off and he saved his own life. He also told the shark, "I'm not gonna die today," which I think is definitely what saved him. The shark was probably just like, "Oh, you're not dying today, sorry, my bad, I thought you were, I was gonna kill you, sorry." Alright, I think it's time to move on to our number 4, which is the Pig Basket Atrocities. It's another World War II story here where 200 Allied soldiers were captured by the Japanese and put into 3-foot-long bamboo pig baskets. They were then taken out to sea and thrown overboard one by one to the waiting sharks. The murder of these prisoners became known as the Pig Basket Atrocities and is known as one of the worst shark-related killings in history. The worst part is the general who was responsible for all this got just 8 years in prison. I kind of want the guy from the last story to punch this one in the face because he's a bigger threat to human life than any shark is. Alright, time to cheer up. In at number 3, we've got the inspirational and quite frankly unbelievable story of Bethany Hamilton. Bethany was just 13 years old when a shark bit her arm clean off her torso. She said it was so clean and painless that she didn't even notice it until she struggled over to her friend and muttered the words, "I think a shark just attacked me." Bethany said it literally came out of the blue and there was not the slightest hint of danger leading up to the loss of her arm. Her best friend's father said he couldn't believe what was happening but quickly sprung into action to get Bethany to the shore. Thankfully, Bethany made a full recovery and has been heralded all around the world for her amazing bravery. This is definitely one of the quietest, cleanest and possibly most instantly life-changing shark attacks I've ever heard of. Alright, so we've talked about sharks being fought off on camera, but how about a shark being fought off with a camera? In at number 2. Conservationist Russell Easton was photographing a 12-foot shark in the Bahamas when it got a little too close for comfort. Out of nowhere, the shark swam right towards Russell and went for a big juicy bite, but thankfully there was a camera between them. In these pictures we can see Russell grappling with the beast as it chomped down on his camera. He said he managed to get one picture of the inside of the shark before the struggle became too much. Russell did what he could with what he had and shoved the camera into the shark's mouth in the hope that this would deter it from attacking him anymore. It did the trick and Russell used a few vital seconds that he bought to get to safety. Alright guys, so far we've learned there's a number of ways of dealing with these unbelievable shark attacks. You can hope there's some dolphins nearby, punch one in the face, or even shove a camera down its throat, but perhaps the best way to deal with it is just to be a total badass, which is exactly what Rodney Fox did. He's our number one. Rodney was just 13 when his story took place. He was defending his Australian spearfishing title in 1953 when a great white shark grabbed his torso and dragged him through the water upside down. He's obviously donezo at that point. Yeah, he's dead, there's no way he can survive that. No, he jumped onto the shark and gouged its eyes out. The shark swam away but then eventually came back again and dragged Rodney underwater. It actually dragged him to the bottom of the ocean where Rodney almost drowned, but he managed to hold on, keep fighting, and eventually got back to the surface where he was rescued by a rescue boat. He suffered massive injuries to his ribcage, lungs and stomach, but after 4 hours of surgery and 360 stitches, Rodney walked away with one of the greatest shark stories of all time. And if he didn't have the scars to believe it, I probably wouldn't have believed him, but he does, so I do.
At number 10 we have a close call. Now this video will probably scare the hell out of some people, but I think of this as just the perfect representation of how close you can get to sharks without having them tear you to pieces. Now that is a little freaky. That's a hammerhead shark and you can see it sweeps in very close and it looks like it's gonna take a chunk out of our diver, but then he's okay.
In our number 9 spot today we have the CRAY fisherman. David Stead is an Australian naturalist, and in his book titled Sharks and Rays of the Australian Seas, he details an encounter with a shark that some have taken to believe is the legendary Megalodon herself. Apparently this incident happened in 1981 to a group of CRAY fishermen that David spoke with. These fishermen were absolutely terrified of a shark they saw in their fishing grounds, which were just off of Broughton Island. They were so scared in fact that they refused to return to the fishing spot for days. All the men agreed that the shark was monstrous and that it was most definitely a shark, not a whale. The men explained that they had never seen a shark of that size before, and considering how they were all seasoned fishermen who had all had their fair share of encounters with sharks, whales, and all of the terrifying things that the ocean has to offer, how frightened they were really did leave quite the impression.
Coming in at number 8 we have Dan Shoesmith. A diving instructor was leading a shark dive and everything seemed to be going as planned. He took his group down to the bottom of the ocean, they kneeled in the sand, and the sharks started to swim around them. The time underwater was finishing up and they started to ascend to the surface. Now normally the sharks would swim away at this point, but they started to follow the group to the surface. Not only that, but it seemed that they were getting closer. Dan got his group of divers to huddle together and stick their fins out to create some distance in case the sharks got close. He then filled a safety buoy full of air and sent it to the surface so the boats would know that he was approaching the surface. When he did this, one of the sharks chased the buoy to the surface. The group of divers waited about 10 meters below the surface for what would have felt like an eternity, but eventually the sharks left and they were able to safely exit the water. Coming in at number 7 we have the Jaws encounter. I had to put a movie one on this list, especially this movie. Think about what your chances of running into a shark are, how much time you spend around water. I know some people who are even afraid of swimming in pools because they think something is going to try and eat them, and this is largely part of this movie. Jaws gave generation after generation an irrational fear of sharks. And yes, it's an irrational fear because you'll see someone who's afraid of sharks wolf down a bunch of high fructose corn syrup like diabetes isn't licking its lips. Steven Spielberg has even said if he could go back in time, he wouldn't make Jaws because it demonized sharks in such a way. But the opening scene of this movie where a girl is getting munched down to that famous Donna, Donna, Donna is still one of the most iconic movie moments ever. It just sucks that so many people became afraid of something that they will probably never see in real life. Coming in at number 6 we have the Australian kayakers. A couple of mates off the coast of Australia were going for a nice kayak ride when they got an unexpected visitor. These guys didn't get a bump like Julie Julie Wolf, but almost like it was pulled right out of a movie, they saw a fin behind them trailing them, waiting to see if one of them was foolish enough to tip over their kayak. The two men were a little frightened, but they just decided they would wait it out. One of the men later described the encounter as a dog coming to check out what was going on. They didn't have a lot of options to scare off their curious friend, so they went with slapping the water with their paddles. Turns out that worked perfectly. Coming in at number 5, we have Cops vs. Sharks. No, this isn't the title of the new motion picture that's going to be coming out this fall. It's actually an incident that happened in Australia. It should be no surprise that Australia has back-to-back slots on a list about shark encounters. Well, a couple of police were responding to something that had them out on a little dinghy. I don't know what kind of water crime that could be, but they were out on a very small boat and a 16-foot great white shark swam by the boat. I don't think there's anything in the police training manual about that. Coming in number 4, we have When Sam Jackson Got Eaten by a Shark. Okay, just one more movie one on the list. This one is my favorite Sam Jackson movie moment ever. Sam Jackson is trying to rally the troops in the movie Deep Blue Sea. It's a moment of motivation. It seems like everything is about to turn around. But here's the thing about Deep Blue Sea. It's more of a horror movie than an action movie. And when things seem like they're starting to get good in a horror movie, you know they're about to get so much worse. That clip is so funny. A bunch of them got wetsuits on and everyone is glistening with sweat for some reason. I love every second of it. Cheesy deaths in movies are some of my favorite things. Alright, let's move back to real people getting eaten by sharks. Coming in at number 3, we have Bathroom Break. You know, if you're tucked away in a cage, the shark will find some way to get to you. A group of divers were down in a cage taking some photos of a massive shark swimming by when this underwater king hit them with one of these. I don't think you can smell it because you're underwater, but that poop is going to cover every inch of you. You're gonna have poop under your fingernails, poop in your eyebrows. You are gonna become one with the poop. Coming in at number 2, we have Scarier Than It Looks. There wasn't a lot the people watching could do in our next clip. They're just standing around watching in horror. Yeah, it looks like that shark is gonna flip over that little kayak and eat that dude like he's downing a Glizzy Gladiator hot dog. But here's the thing, that's a basking shark. They only eat plankton. They don't even have teeth. So even though that looks like it would be terrifying to be in the water with, it's really just a big vegan swimming out there. And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have The Cage Won't Protect You. The thing about shark diving is you want to ensure you're going to see a shark, so sometimes you bring bait. And the bait can get the sharks a little bit excited. A lot of people will go into a cage to try and avoid contact with the shark. But here's the thing about sharks. They are basically a spine, a jaw, and then all muscle and cartilage. So sometimes they can squeeze into very small spaces and you can have something like this happen. He's in the cage. Oh my god. Here's something interesting about that clip. There was a diver in the cage with the shark. The shark is thrashing all over the place. You have blood in the water. Eventually the shark works its way out of the cage and then the diver returns to the surface and signals that he is okay and walks away without a scratch and the most amazing story to tell at a party.